is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 57, borderline Episode 58, with how many times we've had to start this thing over. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Osland. Will Updike, our usual other host, is unavoidably detained. He's at Dune 2. He couldn't make it. He didn't want to talk about, I know, we got left out of the invite.
Timothy Chamalot or whatever more than us. Chalamet.
He didn't want to talk about the Clippers collapse, which we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk the loss against the Bucks, which no one liked. We're going to talk about the upcoming must-win, I guess, against the Rockets. Every game feels like a must-win right now. If you're listening,
yesterday's was.
If you're listening, thanks for listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, we got a little special treat for you today. If you want to watch us, you can find us on youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. And Adam, we have a giveaway, I believe, too.
We do. We still have the Russell Westbrook bobblehead to give away. We're doing 3 keywords. Here's how it works. We've already dropped 2 in 2 previous episodes. May have been a YouTube, may have been a Clips and Double Dip, or one of these fine gentlemen, not Will because he's not here, when Chuck joins me post-game after a Clippers loss typically. So we already gave away 2 keywords. There's one more to give away. After that, you drop all 3 in the YouTube comment section. If you are the first, you're going to win that Russell Westbrook bobblehead that they gave away on a night where, unfortunately, Russell Westbrook broke his left hand. We'll talk more about that and give you an update on his health. But, Chuck, I know we do have to go back over the last game now, even though a lot of people are probably wishing we weren't. We got to talk about the bad. We got to learn from our mistakes. Period. And there was a lot of them.
Yeah, that's my thing is like, it's been, 24 hours, whatever, since the horrible loss. Is this a larger concern? Is the process from this loss something we should be concerned about? They look gassed. It was a second night of a back-to-back. I'm not using that as an excuse. They didn't have their first and third best player. They were up 15. Yeah. It's a game you have to win.
I'm having deja vu in multiple ways right now. It's like a deja vu multiverse because I'm going to say something. I feel like I've said this before, but every game has its own story. And while the Lakers game was one where they lost to LeBron James going off in that fourth quarter, leading by 21, this was a little bit different. They scored 25 points in the fourth quarter as opposed to just 16 against the Los Angeles Lakers in that one. But they gave up 40 points to the Milwaukee Bucks, and Bobby Portis caught fire late. He had 14 of his 28 points in that fourth quarter. Dame had 10 of his 41 in the fourth quarter. Again, no Giannis Antetokounmpo, no Chris Middleton in that game. Not a lot of excuses you can make for this Clippers team. And I'm going to say the unraveling of this meltdown and this collapse this time by the Clippers really occurred just at the end of the third quarter. And through the power of technology, I am now able to share my screen here on the YouTube. For the first time, I figured it out, guys. I'm no longer the caveman in Zoolander banging on the computer. I got this. Chuck, you seeing what I'm seeing? Can you confirm?
I got it.
We've touched down. All right. So here's the end of the third quarter for the Clippers, and we'll go through some of this in the fourth, leading to a 15-point comeback. But at this point, we're talking about a Clippers team that is still up 81-70. They were up by 13 with 40 seconds left in the third quarter. They gave up a couple of free throws to Damian Lillard as the Milwaukee Bucks attempted 14 of them in that third, where the Clippers really couldn't defend without fouling. You'll see there the score was 81-68. They're not going to show free throws on highlights, so here we go. Beasley ends up getting Terrence Mann up into the air, back into the left by Terrence Mann here on the flyby. I don't know if he thought that this was going to be the end of not just the shot clock, but the end of the third quarter with the haste he had going up for that pump fake, like Beasley's going to fly by him or something like that. Not a great defensive play there, but the Clippers then would be up by just 8 heading into the fourth. It's 81-73. Now the Milwaukee Bucks start to get hot. Here is Bobby Portis, who misses one. This was a big play. After the Bobby Portis missed three-pointer in the far side corner, Danilo Gallinari comes in and is able to fly amongst the trees. There's Ivica Zubac there, Amir Coffey. They did not account for Gallo, who got up and had the putback dunk. That's pretty inexcusable. But what I will point out here is just how many ridiculous shots that the Milwaukee Bucks were able to make in this fourth quarter that have somewhat assuaged my fears of this Clippers team late in ball games, because a little bit of this was fluky to a degree, I will say.
Do you get a thesaurus too? Do you got a thesaurus page up? You want to share that tab?
No thesaurus Rex here, but here's Bobby Portis now in the far side corner. Same play from him. You first see Ivica Zubac here, as I'm pointing to the screen like you can see me pointing to it. Ivica Zubac here doesn't like the defensive rotation. So you see that? He puts his arms out, a little bit of frustration there. He goes to close out on Portis in the far side corner. It wasn't a bad closeout. He got his hand up. Doesn't matter. It's too late. Portis knocks down that three-pointer. He's doing a little bit of a shimmy now. They're starting to get it going. But James Harden, remember, as the Clippers were ice cold to start the fourth quarter, those were the first points in the fourth by the Clippers. So we're almost 3 minutes in, and James Harden scored their first 10 points of the fourth. He did not score again after that, though. So as good as he was early, he couldn't get anything to go late. James Harden with that little floater there. James Harden once again, a deep three-pointer, a huge shot. I thought shots like that stemming the tide from the Milwaukee Bucks would be the difference, but there's still 8 minutes left. It's a 6-point game. Here's Damian Lillard, a little Euro step around Paul George here for the easy one, flexes on him, plus an and one. Looked like kind of a weak foul, but I guess it doesn't matter here. You can't complain if you're the Clippers when you led by 15. James Harden once again getting not one, but 2 and ones, I believe, in this fourth quarter. Gets to the free throw line. He was doing all he could. Nobody else was scoring for the Clippers, though, at the time. It's 91-86 now with 6:45 left in the fourth quarter. The Clippers have gone small. Ivica Zubac is off the floor. They're going up against that zone, which, by the way, Ivica Zubac may have been helpful against breaking because he could get to the middle of the paint. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk more about that coming up. Here's Bobby Portis Jr. D'ing up, or Paul George on him. Is this bad defense or just good offense? Well, he doesn't even get a hand up there in the little spin move for the hook shot. Too easy, and now he's in rhythm. He's already knocked down a three-pointer. This Clippers team, though, is on their heels. They still lead by 6 with 5 minutes left here. Look at this, though, from Dame. I don't know what else you do against that. Amir Coffey contested that three-pointer. He pulled up after he was trying to lull him to sleep. It's well contested. I give Amir credit there. That's not, I'm not going to call it a bad shot like Paul George did a few years back in that playoff series.
Not a good one, though. Yeah.
It's not a wide open shot. It's not a clean look. Amir Coffey was there to contest it. It goes for Dame. He had 10 points in the fourth quarter. It's a 3-point game now. The Clippers are in rotation and scrambling as they try to get the ball out of Dame's hands. It ends up going to Pat Bev. You could say here late, as I freeze frame this, that Paul George is too late to get a hand up on Patrick Beverley. He's already into his shooting motion. He has a clean view, and by the time PG contests it, it's probably just, muscle memory at that point. It's too late. That was to tie the game. Speaking of George, very next possession for the Clippers. It's 96-all, 4:22 left. PG on the right wing. He's got James Harden. They go to double him as it's still that little 2-3 zone, but not a traditional one because, you can't have a guy 3 seconds in the paint anymore. We saw that with Bobby Portis getting called for that and Paul George missing the technical free throw. This pass, though, can't happen. Just a lazy pass to James Harden. That's too far out in front of him. He gets one hand on it. Look where the basketball is. Patrick Beverley's about as close as James Harden is to it. If there's a 50-50 ball, that means Pat Bev is probably going to get to it. He swipes at it again. Dame gets a hand on it. Ball goes bouncing around. Bobby Portis comes up with it. Dame gets in transition down the right side of the lane, puts it up and in off the glass. No foul, at least this time, but all of a sudden the Bucks have the lead at 98-96 with 3:40 left. When the Clippers were up by 8 entering the period, up by 15 in the third. Here's more from Dame. The double comes. Clippers are in rotation. This is a ridiculous shot by A.J. Green. The football player did not turn out to be a basketball player. I don't know if you know much about him. Obviously, the Bucks are down a few guys. He's, 30 feet out at least there, Chuck? What is that? I understand where Paul George is. He thinks he might pump fake or try to drive by him, or PG-13 has to come over and guard Bobby Portis in the near side corner. That is maybe a bad shot. That's closer to what Dame did against PG-13 when he was with the Thunder to end that series. That's unguardable. If he's making that, there's not much you can do about it. The momentum has swung. This Milwaukee Bucks team is now on fire. Bobby Portis Jr. Does this look like an easy jumper over Amir Coffey? No. He just turns around and puts it up. He's got a hand in his face. That's well contested. That's a tough shot. A turnaround fadeaway from Bobby Portis? Are you kidding me? And the floodgates have opened. There was a 12-0 run at one point by the Milwaukee Bucks. Now they're up 105-96 with a minute 49 left. Clippers actually get a good look here. Kawhi goes baseline, kicks it out to Norman Powell, King fourth. He knocks down, but he had a cold night overall. But this Clippers team defensively wasn't good enough. Now they have Kawhi Leonard on Bobby Portis. So he's taking up the challenge. He knows they're trying to go to him. This is well defended too. What are you going to do there? Bobby Portis gets that to go over Kawhi Leonard. I think it was too little too late. And by the time the Clippers were playing good enough defense, Bobby Porter Jr. was hot. And I think he hits one more three-pointer here. Norman Powell leaves Portis. Bobby Portis, I should say. He goes to pick up Patrick Beverley. He's already knocked down a three-pointer here in the quarter. And now he's at the top of the key. He's at the top of the arc. So you got a decision to make. Nice play by Patrick Beverley. He burns the Clippers, gives it up to Portis Jr. in the near side corner, who's wide open now because the Clippers were in rotation trying to get the ball out of Damian Lillard's hands. That's game. That's your kill shot. They're up by 10. It's just some of these shots, that was wide open. Some of these shots were just insane that the Milwaukee Bucks were able to hit. Some of them from Bobby Portis Jr. And I'm sorry for going Tim Legler there and going for way too long, but Chuck, the more I look at it.
Why did we watch that again? Why did we have to relive that again?
Well, I guess my point throughout this is it may have been less to do about the Clippers and more to do with some ridiculous hot shooting from the Milwaukee Bucks in some ways. There were at least 4 shots there that were so well defended, and it doesn't even matter.
There was a lot of great shot making, right? It's like the LeBron thing too. You don't expect LeBron to make those threes, but you do expect things like Bobby Portis to punish a small ball lineup, right? Like we saw that kind of happen. And
not with turnaround fadeaways on Amir Coffey, though. Okay, not with a long three-pointer in the far side corner over the outstretched hand of Ivica Zubac. Those are tough shots. Those two, at least.
Right, but those two. But like, it's not like. But there are things the Clippers did poorly in this game. Sure. They were sloppy with the ball. They fouled a bunch. They didn't drive the paint in the zone, which we're going to see in the playoffs. It feels like teams are going to hurl a zone at the Clippers because of how wonky, or like you mentioned, Zoo, right? Like he could maybe do some damage there.
He was asking for the ball early in the fourth quarter against that zone. They didn't give it to him. And that is becoming a very much a pet peeve of mine, them not finding Zoo enough and giving him opportunities on offense when I don't think this team can reach their highest ceiling if they're not exploiting the fact that Ivica Zubac has been much better offensively, and him working with James Harden is one way to execute offense down the stretch. Isn't that what we saw against the Houston Rockets in that first victory for James Harden, the step back three-pointer where I think he was fouled at the very end? But it was the first time in a long time we saw them with a real system late in a ball game. They were just running pick and roll with him and Ivica Zubac. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what we need. And what happened to Zoo closing? That was a thing earlier in the year. And everyone was like, whoa, Zoo's closing. Mostly us. We're very proud because we love Zoo on this pod. But it's like Zoo's closing. It gives the Clippers size at the end of the game, which has been an issue. The small ball, the Powell Rangers were great for that stretch and things like that. But that's not necessarily a defensive lineup. Like the small ball has been so wonky. And it felt like that's kind of the process of some of these losses, right? Is the small ball lineup not being as effective and still getting run, which also is difficult to deal with. Mason Plumlee's not playing well, so he's kind of out of the rotation. So, like, there is some – I can see why, but it's just frustrating to see it cost us a game in the way that it did.
Coach Lou said post game, the logic there was they wanted to be able to rotate easier. Obviously, they were doubling Dame, so guys are going to be flying around the perimeter trying to get back to that wide open man. It's not like it was completely irrational. They're knocking down some tough threes. When you see AJ Green hit that 30-footer like that, it's just this team's going off. I think they were 6 of 11 from 3 in the fourth quarter. It felt worse than that.
Always does.
But some of those shots spread the floor so much. Then you get Bobby Portis going to work on the inside against a smaller guy. So as Paul George also pointed out post-game, they kind of were doing both against the Clippers. It wasn't just the threes. They were very balanced down the stretch. They were punishing them for not having size. They were punishing them along the perimeter, regardless of them going small. And you mentioned the Power Rangers lineup. Well, initially, that included Ivica Zubac. He was part of that five.
True. Yeah.
So I don't understand. Look, I'm not going to say that it was wild and crazy to not have Ivica Zubac on the floor. At some point, though, I would have thought Bobby Portis, with the way he was trying to punish them, Big Zoo could have been useful out there late in the ball game. And it just seems like right now, and maybe it's because he's been out of the lineup for so long, out of sight, out of mind, regarding the players and maybe even the coaching staff, we've all kind of forgotten how good Ivica Zubac was for about a month and a half straight when the Clippers were on this crazy roll. It was him and James Harden doing so much of initiating the offense. And I think they need to get back to that, especially in big moments. Like I mentioned, that game against Houston, the first win with James Harden, that dramatic victory. They were running an offense at the end of the game. Finally, it wasn't just iso ball with Kawhi and Paul George. And yeah, the Clippers missed some good looks too in the fourth quarter. Those aren't going to show up in the highlight package. They had some open shots, but they attempted, of their 20 shots in the fourth, 14 of them were three-pointers. Now, some of that is because you're playing a zone. You have to bust it by hitting shots. But another way is to attack the space and either kick it out or find those crevices in the defense. Find those cracks in the defense by having a big man in the middle.
You know what's funny? I guess this isn't funny. You know what bums me out now that I'm thinking about it? You know who helps against a zone and cutting into space? Russ. He doesn't, you know what I'm saying? If there's one thing he's good at, it's that backdoor cut and getting the lob from James Harden. That's a good, I'm not saying, anything crazy here, but like that losing Russ's cutting is rough. That's something where Terrence Mann, because again, I think we're going to see these zones. Terrence's cutting has to be good.
Well,
yeah.
And Terrence wasn't out there late. They went with Amir Coffey. Now, the logic there is you're going against a zone. He's a more willing shooter. So, yeah, I can see why you go with Amir Coffey. Also, He was playing elite defense. He did not get burned by bad defense. He had a hand up. He was right there. Dame hits that shot. Bobby Portis, the fadeaway. I don't know what you do against that stuff. It's not like the Lakers game. I thought for sure their offense is what failed them with just scoring 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
They did have 25 in the fourth yesterday against Milwaukee. But I will say a couple of those three-pointers from Paul George late skewed the numbers some, right?
And because Kawhi 0 for in the fourth.
Yeah, 0 for 4.
Which is an anomaly. I think we can all agree, those listening and watching, that's probably an anomaly too. To your point of things that were some outlier things maybe happening.
For the most part, he has had his struggles at times, like the entire Clippers team has had at times, executing late in ball games and looking like a well-oiled machine. When, you get a bad pass like that from Paul George to James Harden, it's inexcusable. We've seen too many plays like that late in games. Just sloppy with the basketball, miscues. I listened to James Harden postgame, Kawhi postgame, and Paul George. I like what James Harden said. He seemed upset. He talked about we need to execute. It starts there. It's not about them. It's about us. If we do what we're supposed to do, we're winning most nights. He was completely right about that. There was one thing that I didn't like from Paul George. They asked him about the 9 missed free throws in the ball game. He said something to the effect of that's part of the game. And I thought,
oh, it's not.
Well, 5 of them came in the fourth quarter, and 3 of them were missed by Paul George. 2 early, and then the missed technical free throw off the defensive 3-second call on Bobby Portis. when they were playing the zone. James missed one. Kawhi missed one. Can't happen. That stuff can't happen in a close game down the stretch.
9 minutes of bonus time in the fourth. I said this on the double dip, but that's what I've been going to. 9 minutes of bonus time in the fourth on the second night of a back-to-back is probably never going to happen to the Clippers again. And they weren't able to fully take advantage
with the reviews and everything.
Just no, they were in the bonus for 9 minutes. They had 9 minutes.
I thought you were counting up how many reviews were in the game. Yes, they were. Yeah. They were in the penalty.
That too. The extra rest. Yeah, they couldn't get the bonus going. It was like, oh, there's 9 minutes of bonus. Let's do this. Just dribble straight at them. Just you'll get something.
Part of that is they're playing a zone. They're daring you to shoot. Typically, the Clippers should be able to beat that because they're such a great shooting team. But as we have seen, post All-Star break now, they're not hitting three-pointers. In fact, outside of, I think, 2 games, right now they're shooting 34.5% from three in their last 11 games, not post All-Star break, post Grammy road trip, where they are 5-6. And they're shooting just about 35% from the outside, when the entire year they have been top 2 from distance. That's a little bit shocking. It speaks to the offense and their struggles right now. Maybe they're not getting as many open looks. I haven't looked at the advanced numbers. Maybe they're just missing some of those shots. They certainly did against the Bucks. They even did against Minnesota in that game too, from the outside, to be honest. And as much as people want to look to that and say, hey, they beat Minnesota, they did. And they played great defense. I also don't know how repeatable that type of victory is when you get out rebounded like that by a team. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to lose. They missed shots. Minnesota missed shots. It was a rock fight, a slugfest, but it was a third straight game also where James Harden and Paul George didn't play well against that team. Right. So if you're looking at things that are repeatable, seems like that is right now against Minnesota. I don't want to have to rely on them having to win by 1 because they had a few less turnovers. And yeah, they did execute well down the stretch, and Kawhi Leonard hit some clutch free throws. But
89 points isn't getting it done over 7 games per game.
It was the first time since 2022 a team had won a ball game scoring that few of points. 89. Not just the Clippers, I think anybody. So that's an oddity. That's not that repeatable. So they're just not playing good basketball right now. They're 21st in its last 11 games, coming post Grammy trip. They're 22nd defensively last 11 games. And then you account for 2 collapses and meltdowns against a Lakers team they're up by 21 against a team without Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. You're up by 15 against. I kept saying, put them away. Period.
Everyone. The whole timeline was like foot on their throat. Like, let's make this happen.
I can understand running out of gas, and that could account for some of the missed free throws and not having legs. It was another perfect storm of everything that could go wrong for the Clippers, everything that could go right for the Milwaukee Bucks. But for it to happen twice in 5 days, now you're wondering, is it a pattern? Is it more concerning, Chuck?
I don't know. I think it is rough when 2 anomalies happen to you in 5 days, right? Like when 2 of those things happen. But how many games out are we from the All-Star break? 6? Something like that.
I go Grammy road trip. That's where I'm at, because that's when it seems like things change. They were 6-1. Right, since then, they're 5-6.
They got a chance against the Rockets, which we're going to talk about in a sec, which is kind of spooky looking at some of these stats between the Clippers and the Rockets just post All-Star break. We are very close in some categories you don't necessarily want to be close to the Rockets in. I thought the legs were really obvious on yesterday, which is really frustrating, which is something the Clippers, that is a pattern, right? They're an older team. They just are an older team. Having Bones is nice, that little bit extra juice. He had that like 4-second bucket, I think, for half or something. He like took the ball.
End of the first quarter.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking, where it was just like, I don't think there's any other Clipper healthy who could do that. But
he's only playing, though, right now when James Harden's off the floor. It's one or the other. So they're not playing them together at all like Russ with James Harden. So Bones, if that's the case, he's not going to get much more than 13, 14 minutes a night.
Right. I think I'm at, I'll say a 5.5 out of 10 concern as of 6:31 p.m. on March 5th.
I'm right there with you just because
crazy, but
there's 22 games left. They're not building great habits at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You're too close to the finish line for the regular season, and you're playing worse basketball now. I'll give you this stat, though. I got this from Carlo Jimenez earlier. He is too humble to take credit for it. He said he saw it somewhere on TikTok, but I don't know who that guy was, and I know who Carlo Jimenez is.
So Carlo gets the credit. Sorry.
Carlo's getting the credit, whether he won it or not. The Golden State Warriors, 2 years ago, on their way to winning the championship. They went 11-12 post All-Star break. The Denver Nuggets last year, on their way to winning the championship, they went 12-11 post All-Star break. Now, both those teams ended up finishing top 2 or top 3. Denver had some distance between them and the second seed in the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think that's why they took their foot off the gas a little bit. They could afford to. The Warriors finished 3rd in the West, and they were a game under 500 post All-Star break. I don't know if that assuages some fears or if it's just there's no comparison because we're talking about the Clippers and those are 2 other teams, 2 unique situations. I don't know. I'm looking for positives right now. I was asking for it from callers last night. They should be 3-0 in March right now.
But alas, the 17-0 in March crowd is in shambles, and I hope they're doing okay. I don't know what they expected, but I'm sad for them, I guess.
What's really bothers him is they're getting 2 games at the end of the season that will not be forgotten when you look at the final standings and their record.
Oh, yeah.
The game against the Lakers and the game against the Bucks yesterday. Everyone's going to point to that. If they finish outside the top 3, if they could have finished top 2 because of that, it's tough. Those are just 2 inexcusable losses at the wrong time where it felt like they had ways to win both of those ball games and they didn't go to the right game plan. And I think y'all just heard me trying to break down some film tape. What the hell do I know? But it just seemed like, I'm surprised that Ivica Zubac wasn't back in that ball game, who didn't play heavy minutes, who likely would have been fresher. And I just don't understand.
I feel like you're digging
why they're looking him off.
You gotta get back up.
You mean I'm down even further now? I'm down bad.
You are sinking right now.
Look, they smoke Houston tomorrow. They beat Chicago back home on Saturday, and they redeemed themselves against the Bucks. So they win 3 in a row, and they're 5-1 to start off March. I'm going to be singing their praises.
There we go.
And this was just a one-off, an anomaly, a bad week, and there's not much to see here. And look, coming into the Lakers game, they were 31-1 when leading going into 4th quarters. Nobody was better, and they've had 2 more losses since then in those scenarios. So, look, their clutch rating, I think it's 6th now net rating wise after what happened last night. But I think since December, they're top 2 at least in clutch rating. So maybe we're nitpicking, and you got to go back to the body of work with this team right now. And because that's a bigger sample size. 11 games, though, isn't nothing. It's almost 15% of the season, and they're 5-6 in the last 11.
Let's hope it gets better against the Rockets. We're going to be talking, we got a Russ injury update-ish. Then we're talking Clippers versus Rockets. If you're listening on audio, the ads have been loud for some people. If that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. If you're watching on YouTube, you're just going to see our faces for a little bit. We got loud ads, and then Clippers versus Rockets talk coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in. It's Clips and Dip, episode 57 of season 2. I'm Adam Moslin. We got Chuck Mockler. No Will Updike. He'd rather see part 2 of some movie that's setting records so far this year. That is directed by my favorite director, but I still didn't like the first one.
It's great. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's phenomenon. That's happening right now. Dune 2 is a big deal, but so is this Clippers team, all right? And so is what happened to Russell Westbrook and losing him. And Chuck made the point earlier of not having that slasher against his own. And a guy can get to the basket. And even if he's not able to get those to go, he was finding Mason Plumlee the last couple of games before he got hurt near the basket. He can find Ivica Zubats. Yeah, I think Russ was needed against the Bucks. I think Minnesota is obviously a worse matchup for him, but we do have an update on Russ coming from Adrian Wojnarowski here, Chuck.
Yeah, he's successful surgery on Monday. The hope is that he'll return for the start of the playoffs. Not super concrete, right? Also, the timeline kind of makes sense with what we've been seeing, like 4 to 6 weeks. Playoffs start April 20th, 420, for those who like numbers. But yeah, I mean, some people like the date with numbers. It'll be interesting to see what his rehab process looks like, because if you're going from broken hand to playoffs, that's what it seems like, right? He's not going to get any regular season run. I hope he does. But this timeline initially reported is he's going to be coming maybe straight back to the playoffs,
which would mean 6 weeks, which is kind of what we all thought. Their last regular season game is April 14th. So you get that week off. If you're not a play-in team, that could be substantial for this Clippers team, considering March and just getting guys rest before the playoffs start. And hey, I totally understand what most people are saying right now, or a lot of the fan base is saying, which is just be healthy for the playoffs. So you can't be in the play-in tournament if you want that time off right before the first round starts. It'd be great to have Russ back then. I think everyone kind of just figured 6 weeks.
Yeah,
6 weeks.
Which seems like what we're at. He's the only player on the injury report for Clippers versus Rockets, which happens Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. if you're in LA. A very kind of inconvenient time for the game to start.
Pre-game at 3:30 if you're in traffic. AM 570 LA Sports.
There we go. Rockets are 2-4 since the All-Star break. They've had a pretty brutal post-All-Star break schedule. They beat Phoenix twice. They lost to the Pels. They lost to the Thunder twice. And they also lost to the Suns. So they've played a pretty tough gauntlet since the All-Star break. And I found some similarities between these two teams that I think are not ideal. This is just since the All-Star break. Clips are 19th in points per game. Rockets are 22nd. Clippers are 22nd in three-point percentage. Rockets are 25th. The Rockets are taking the third most three-point attempts per game, while the Clippers are taking the 18th most. So kind of a bit of a disparity there. If we shoot the same percentage, but these amounts stay the same, tomorrow might be more difficult than we want it to be. Rockets are 12th in defensive rating. Clippers are 15th in defensive rating since the All-Star break. I don't like how close some of these stats are. We are a better net rating, obviously. We are net rating, we're 1.2, we're 11th. Rockets are -7.5. So when they lose, they're losing by quite a bit in these games. So I don't know. They're grabbing a lot of boards. They're getting a lot of free throws. In terms of the mistakes we talked about in that first segment, how are you feeling about this game? They're a young team. I think we're too top heavy, though, right? We got to get this win.
According to the injury report, outside of Russell Westbrook, everyone's available right now. That's big. From what I saw, they need to play like they did against the Washington Wizards after losing that game against the Lakers, where they are upset, where they, as Patrick Beverly would say, they want to get their lick back. They lost a game they shouldn't have once again. And guys need to show up when it matters most, because you can be as upset as you want to. I don't know if you're going to put this Rockets team away. And I don't know if the Clippers can feel comfortable no matter what the score is, no matter how much time is left on the clock right now. That's really what it comes down to. The crux of the issue for me is, are guys going to start thinking about it? Is it going to get in their head that they've given up on these leads, that they haven't played their best basketball when their best is required recently? Overall, great. But this happening twice in a week perks your ears up. It's a bit of a red flag. So if they get into a tight game down the stretch against the Houston Rockets, are they drawing from a reservoir of confidence, or are they gripping a little bit? Are they feeling like, here we go again? If the Rockets start to hit some crazy wild shots like the Bucks did, are they going to feel like everything's against us? I don't know.
Whew. The uncertainty, that's the biggest thing they're battling, which is, as Clippers fans, is the most frustrating part. We know what this team looks like at its highs, right? They run the pick and roll. Zoo made great decisions out of the short roll against Milwaukee, I thought. It took a couple. He's still getting back to being fully Zoo, but he was making great reads out of the short roll. And I just like, it's the closing lineups is what we're all kind of worried about, I think. Is if things aren't working, is Ty going to do the quick switch? Is he going to see how it works? Like, this is a Rockets team. They have a lot of guys who can put up points. Van Vliet, Jalen Green doesn't play any defense, but he can put up points. Sengun, tough cover to start. Like, this is a team that's not an offensive juggernaut or anything like that, but they're going to run. If you're a team playing the Clips, you run. If you're young.
Now, the good news there is, if you're looking for any positives right now, here's a pretty big one. The Clippers, the last 2 games total, have only given up 6 fast break points.
Damn.
They gave up 0 against Minnesota. Another reason they won that game, maybe the biggest. They gave up 6 against Milwaukee total. That's incredible. Wow. So we've talked about the transition defense, how poor it has been, how it's bringing down their overall defensive rating. If they could just get teams into the half court, they're pretty damn good. Unless Milwaukee's just making everything. That attention to detail and the game plan discipline there has been different lately. And you're right. They got to have it against this Houston Rockets team. Where do they sit on pace on the season here? I'm pulling it up right now. So Houston,
they are 14th per Basketball Reference, around 99 possessions per game.
And the Clippers are 21st. So,
which probably isn't a huge difference, right? That's what, like 3 possessions or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's just more of what this Houston team is capable of doing based off the young talent. If they click in, they can give you a glimpse into the future of what they could be, on a good night, basically.
That's what it is. Yeah. The glimpse of the future game is not what we want tomorrow.
No, we want ghosts of Rockets past, but not so far past where James Harden starts playing for them or something.
Yeah, Sengun becomes, Hakeem. I don't want that. They foul a ton, which helps the Clippers, hopefully. Teams take 26. Teams take the second most free throw attempts against the Rockets, so they foul. If the Clippers can hit free throws, that would be great. And just bench depth wise, the Clippers don't have the deepest team, but they have a deeper team than the Rockets do. Amen Thompson, Jock Londale, Cam Whitmore, Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday. That's who was off the bench for the Rockets last game. Not slouches, but not as good as Norm Powell, Amir Coffey. Might end right there, but I like how much better our bench is with the rotations that are hopefully they're on point.
The Clippers, and I like their coaching staff, obviously now. They've been competing. Jalen Green has had some moments recently that worry me.
Has he figured it out? Has Ime gotten him to actually buy in? Because that's when
I wouldn't go that far.
Fair. He's starting to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still 22. He's got some De'Aaron Fox in him. So the last 2 games against Phoenix, now they could have an emotional letdown just because they're coming off of 2 of their highest intensity ball games of the season against the Suns, where they got into it with them and guys were ejected.
That's right.
And Jalen Green had the ball bounce off of his head from Bradley Beal on the inbounds play. He took it further than Matt Barnes did with Kobe. He actually hit him on the head with it.
Yeah.
But Jalen Green in those 2 games, 34 points in each. and
Right.
he hit no less than 6 3-pointers in either of them. He had 7. He went 7 for 17. He got up 17 threes in the first game. They
Well,
lost that one by 5 against Phoenix, but then he goes 6 of 12 the next time out. Am I crazy to think that they actually might have an emotional letdown? Like that was their playoff series? That's
I can
wishful
see
thinking.
it because the Clippers need an emotional upbring. What's the opposite of a letdown? Bring up?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't
Well,
know. The
bounce
Clippers
back
need
is what they
that.
need for sure.
Yeah, the
Emotional
Clippers
boost, a lift, yeah.
lift. I like lift. The Clippers need a lift.
In Houston,
Yeah,
the
and
Rockets.
and
Get
it's
it?
got to come from. I mean, I want to see everyone. I want to see the bench play better, but like Paul George, I would love to see have a great game start to finish. None of the mental lapses. He was efficient last game. People were losing their minds about Paul George, which I thought was a little much after what happened yesterday. Extension talk aside, that's a conversation for another day. But like this is a game again where like the Clippers are going as far as 2-1-3 and Harden takes them. They need to lead by example and just show them why we won 9 games in a row. Them being the fans. Show us, them, whatever. Like, I don't want to see them play in the fourth quarter. They have a weird matinee brunch back to back this weekend. Like, make things happen. Do what we know that we can do. Take it seriously with the rotations. We know that you talked about it. We've seen the pick and roll. We know that what this team can do. Like, and I think the emotional letdown is coming from Houston. I like that. I agree. I'm holding on to that.
Now I'm scared.
Oh no, we flipped.
We're overly confident.
I said they have to. I didn't say they will, to be fair.
I'm trying to think of, is there any bad blood between the two teams? And all I can think of is James Harden is back in Houston. So they're going to try to stop him and the crowd's going to be on top of him. Or he's going to get he should be celebrated, right? He should get a standing O.
Yeah, he'll get a stand. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Paul George back in Indiana.
Well, for all the money that James Harden brings to the Houston economy through certain endeavors, that man deserves a standing ovation.
Yeah. And he's been back a few times, so maybe that stuff is simmered anyways. Yeah. However that could emotionally charge a game or bring up the intensity in the atmosphere, that should have been quelled by now.
And I don't think, and this is just going to be my bugaboo that I'm going to maybe mention for every game from here on out.
March?
Do we think Ime's close? Do we think Ime's throwing some zone at us?
That
it's annoying for the Clippers. They have an issue with it.
So they gave up tape on how bad they were with transition defense, and teams were taking advantage of that and were intent on beating the Clippers that way. And now they may have given some good tape out the last couple of games. So they've given up 6 fast break points, but now the zone's going to be out there. It's their job to prove they can beat it, or else, they're going to keep seeing it.
Not a ton, obviously, because it's still like it's not, But
teams will do it here and there to junk up the game, but it should be as ineffective against anyone in NBA history as it should be against the Clippers because of the shooting on this team. But they haven't shot it well the last 11 games, 34.5% from 3. So maybe even that's encouraging because it's
like
unsustainable. It's unsustainable. Yeah. They're too good of a 3-point shooting team for that to hold up. I'm sorry. They have the personnel.
We all agree.
They have the roster. I don't know. I'm sorry. And they're too good in clutch time to give up another game the way they have against the Lakers and Bucks. They have the second best clutch rating. They're 15-5 in those situations since December 1st. They're great there. They just had 2, unorthodox losses.
Stinkers.
Burn the tape. Burn the tape of the fourth.
Build good habits against the Rockets. Let's get to the brunch back-to-back. That's how I'm feeling right now. Start to build one good habit against the Rockets.
Now I'm worried the Rockets are like, this is who we are. We're the new bad boys. We're the badasses.
We kick everyone's ass now.
We took out Phoenix. They pissed us off. You don't want like us when we're angry.
So who's
Player to
your
watch?
Kawhi Leonard player of the game pick? Will would say PJ Tucker. We'll officially put his vote down as PJ Tucker.
I'm going James Harden back in Houston.
I love it.
Was having a phenomenal game against the Bucks till there were only about 6 minutes left.
Okay, Harden in Houston. I mean, it's
he
hard
was
to argue
pissed
against that.
afterwards.
He was upset. You're going Harden. I can't pick Kawhi Leonard because he's in the damn thing.
The beard
I'm gonna go
rolled up like in a cartoon.
Yeah, I'm going Zoo. Sengun is a really good center. He's really active. He does a lot. He does everything
except defense.
Except defense, but he's not.
He's not a sieve.
Block here and there. He's not a sieve. But Zoo's going to have a responsibility. He's going to be moving around a lot. We're going to probably see. I think I want Zoo to have a good game because I want Zoo to get the leash on Zoo is so short, and it's a lot longer for I would say maybe everyone else on the team except for like Bones Island. So I'd like to see him because he has to build back up from where he was pre-illness. Because
they need a reminder.
Yeah.
They need a y'all must have forgot type game from Zubas.
100%. And again, just for the record, we'll pick PJ Tucker. Let's get in. All right, we got a give no quarter update. If you think we're gonna win, let us know at Clippers Pod on Twitter. Let us know at Clippers Podcast on YouTube. If you think we're gonna lose, keep it to yourself. We got a give no quarter update from our chief statistician, John Rodriguez. There have been 60 games in this NBA season for the Clippers, 240 total quarters possible. The math that John is doing on this stuff is incredible. We got one overtime game, so that's an extra quarter. Clippers have won 131 quarters. Hey, great. The Clippers have lost 97 quarters, which feels like a lot. They've tied 12 of them. They've lost one overtime quarter.
Hold on. I want that one more time. How many did they win and how many did they lose?
131.
131 wins. How many losses?
97 losses, 12 draws.
And how many games? 60?
Yes. I copy and pasted this from Twitter. I did no double checking. I trust our chief statistician.
It's like a 57% win percentage or something like that.
It's not terrible. Not terrible. But you know what that means? That's 98 quarters lost counting overtime, which means we individually owe $24.50 to our respective charities.
I thought it was a group project. Like we're pooling our funds like together.
We're not.
Yeah.
We are pooling our funds together. $24.50 each as of right now. So I hope, win some more quarters. That would be nice.
Win all 4 against Houston. A complete game, please.
That's what we need. We need the Clippers complete game. You win every quarter. You hopefully win the game after doing that. I don't know how else you wouldn't. You win every quarter. The Cali 3 goes off. Zoo double. Bones 3 of 4 from 3. Norm 15 points.
Hey, Bones came in and hit that 3. Got downhill in 4 seconds like Tyus Edney.
Man, it's fun to watch. Like he brings a thing that the Clippers did not have. That twitchiness, that quickness, like it's fun to watch. It's like it's really especially in the backdrop of this Clippers team, it pops a lot more if you've really been watching this team.
He's electric. That pass he had to Daniel Tice. He hit him for a beautiful wraparound pass for a kick out on a 3 that Tice missed against Minnesota the day before, too. Wide open. Like, Bones can create. That is the thing we found out about him last season. Oh, he's more of a scorer. He's just a pull-up shooter type guy. No, he can play point, and he can get others involved and make life easy for him. So let's see some more of it.
Speaking of just one more thing before we get out of here. I believe we alluded to it earlier. Is there a keyword that we need to give people for the Russ bobblehead giveaway? Are we doing that?
Keyword number 3, the final keyword. And remember, if you got all 3 of them, drop it in the YouTube comment section below here. If you're first, you win the Russ bobblehead. Your third and final keyword. Incorporated. Incorporated. We're not giving out the other 2. You had to have listened to those shows. You can go back. You can go back and listen.
You can. Even the radio ones. We put those out as a podcast episode. It's all up there.
Clips and
It's
double
all up there. That's a good word.
It's all up there.
We're gonna have that about wraps things up for us. Will isn't here. He says bye. He's at Dune. He picked PJ Tucker again. We're doing a double dip after the Rockets game tomorrow. Adam, what are these double dips we keep alluding to?
Well, that's when one of these guys joins me post game for the call-in show Clippers Talk on AM 570 LA Sports for a segment. It's a fun time. I get my spiel out earlier in the post-game show, and then I get a new perspective from Chuck Mockler or Will Updike.
Sometimes it's a fun time. Wasn't fun yesterday.
I had a caller that was like, oh, we can still go out there and get somebody, right? And I had to explain how if they pick someone up at this point, they're not playoff eligible. So this is the team they are rolling with, guys. This is it. So they got to get better internally, optimize some lineups, get Big Zoo going like Chuck said. Big Zoo, he can be a monster at times. For him to get, 2 shots yesterday?
Yeah.
He was 4 shots, 2 of 4. He was asking for the basketball. The Bucks were playing without Brook Lopez at times. I think even without Bobby Portis out there. And the Clippers still didn't look for him. I just feel like they need that refresher course on who Ivica Zubac is. I don't get it. I don't know what it's going to take, but they're going to need him. They need that dimension to their offense for them to reach the highest of highs and to get back to playing that elite offense they were before he was getting banged up and before this post-Grammy trip swoon that they've had.
Here's to winning tomorrow against the Rockets. We'll have that double dip for you. Have a tripod on Friday to talk the brunch back-to-back that's happening this weekend. Just don't even look at the schedule. Just be surprised by it. It's going to be a good time. I'm also, if you're listening to this before Wednesday, I'm going to be on the Bleacher Report app at 9 in the morning LA time to talk about the Clips. So if you have a 9 a.m. meeting and you need to present something, go ahead and download the app, pop me up on there on the screen, and I'm sure your coworkers will love it. We'll be back, like I said, with the double dip tomorrow. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. You can find us over on iTunes, Apple, Deezer, at YouTube as well. Adam's got the call. He's got to get out of here. As always, let's go Clips.